I really liked the first Quiet Place. I never reviewed it because it came out in 2018, and I was MIA at the time. My biggest concern for the second one was that John Krasinski and his beard and his flannels were half the fun of the first movie, so I'm like, oh no, without that, what does this have? But fortunately, Cillian Murphy steps up to the plate. He's got a great beard, he's got a cool hat, runs around with a bolt action with a nice wooden stock, and Emily Blunt's got her old-timey wooden pump shotgun, and it really gives you these kind of Last of Us vibes. I saw Quiet Place 2 in the theater, and I tried to get the family to come with me, but all the women were like, I don't want to see a horror movie. I'm like, it's not a horror movie, it's a thriller. There's a difference. Go watch Hereditary. That's a horror movie. This is only PG-13 for goodness sakes. Now, there are jump scares, which I'm not happy about, but they're not super over-the-top jump scares. They're not artificially enhanced by sound effects. They are naturally occurring, they're organic, and they're caused by the character's actions in the movie, like somebody will drop something. And Quiet Place 2 is very good. I really enjoy the look of the movie, these kind of greens and browns of nature. The acting is excellent, and the character's inability to communicate via dialogue really allows their facial expressions to be front and center, which I think is a great compare and contrast from War for the Planet of the Apes, whereas I think that movie relied almost entirely on sign language and dialogue and ended up being very boring. Not that Andy Serkis did not do a great job, but the movie's writing was not nearly as good, and the situation necessitating the sign language was not as convincing. And I think Quiet Place does it much better, because there's always a tension of don't make a sound, don't make a sound, don't make a sound. Somebody rips ass at 2 a.m. and the whole family gets massacred. And I think it's a real solid sequel, and the only two issues I have with it are why on God's green earth is nobody wearing socks? They're fluffy, they're soft, they'll muffle your sound better, and they'll protect your bleeding ass feet. And the movie runs into the same issue any post-apocalyptic movie will have that's trying to take the United States and push it forward in time with a collapse of civilization, that anything short of thermonuclear war is going to stress your suspension of disbelief for why the United States military didn't just eliminate the threat. It's possible the first movie addressed it, and I just don't remember, but in the second movie there's a comment about, oh, the National Guard and kind of how they dealt with them in the first couple days, and I'm just like, okay, and what happened? But it's a great movie for $5. Had a hell of a blast in theaters without a mask on, because we are finally back to normal. The pandemic is over. If you are still wearing a mask, you're a literal conspiracy theorist. And as any good movie, I'm going to use it as an opportunity to ram my politics down your throat. I don't know much about Krasinski politically, but this movie is a ringing endorsement of the Republican Party. Which is funny, because despite Hollywood's left-leaning biases, most of the morals in their movies are use guns, defend yourself, defeat the enemy, be a hero, be brave, which are conservative values. These are things the left does not believe today. In the opening flashback the movie does on day one, while everybody's just kind of at a ball game, you got kind of the small neighborhood town, everybody knows everybody's names. John Krasinski goes into a grocery store, he buys something, but he's running late, so he just says, Roger, you got me, so he knows the store owner by name, he's gonna pay him back later. Trust, a good tight-knit community, and the aliens show up, so we get John Krasinski running around with his beard and his great hair and his flannel, protecting his daughter. And there's a scene of the two of them hiding with a lot of other people in a bar, waiting, and there's an alien stalking them outside, and this scene made me angry. Not at the movie. I think either intentionally or unintentionally, the movie's sending a good message here, and that is, you are all pathetic. I do not want to see John Krasinski and all the husbands and all the fathers using themselves as human shields for their wives and children, although I guess that's better than nothing. I want to see every man in that room step forward with a high-caliber automatic rifle and blow that thing to hell. And like I said, I don't know if the movie intended it or not, but it's a pretty good critique on laziness, complacency, and the cowardice of the average American, and the lack of preparedness. I mean, how many of you listening have 30 days of food and water? And there's a man in the bar that's like saying the Our Father, and he's like shivering and crying, and John Krasinski's, putting his hand over his mouth, and I'll be damned if I am ever solely reliant on prayer. I'm not dissing on prayer. I'm not saying God doesn't answer prayer. I'm telling you, God answered your prayer for safety 1,500 years ago when he gave man gunpowder. God answered your prayer in 1776 when he founded the United States of America. God is great and God is real, but God is not some magical wish-granting genie. God works very practically and indirectly through human beings. Have you heard the parable about the drowning man? So there's a guy who's in his house, and there's a flood coming, and it's getting higher and higher, and he's going to drown, but he says, oh, I'm going to pray for God to save me. So a guy comes along on a horse, and he says, come on the horse, we are going to get out of here, you're going to drown. And he says, no, I'm waiting for God to save me. So he leaves. Another guy shows up in a boat, says, get in the boat, we're going to drown, we got to go. And he says, no, I'm waiting for God to save me. So it happens again, and depending on the time period the parable's set in, either a helicopter shows up, and the same thing happens. The guy says, I'm waiting for God to save me. Guy drowns. goes to heaven, says, God, why didn't you save me? And God says, you ignorant bastard, I sent you the man, I sent you the horse, I sent you the boat, I sent you the helicopter. What the fuck is wrong with you? Direct quotation, Romans 19. Many a Christian denomination will disagree with me on this, but I don't think God will do anything for you that you won't do for yourself. And all of you women, this is the reason why you want to move to a red state and marry a conservative prepper who has emergency supplies, guns, and a radio. You want to marry a very large man who will kill to protect you. You do not want to marry some little feminist bitch who writes articles at Vox. And there's another moment later in the movie where some of the characters feel like they're safe and they let their guard down and they end up paying for it. And it's just like, dude, that's it. To my future wife and child, this will never be you. If I can ever find a woman who's willing to put up with me, I can promise you right now, that will never be me. My audience is like 98% men. You have a duty as husbands, as fathers, as men, as Christians, as Americans, as human beings to get as physically fit as you can, to have a first aid kit, to purchase guns, and protect you and your own. If you live in a place that does not allow you to protect yourself, if you live in a place that forbids you from owning guns, you live in a shitty place, and you have a moral obligation to move. If you are of the opinion that guns are bad and gun control saves lives, then explain to me first why Detroit, LA, Chicago, and New York have the highest gun violence deaths in America. And if you're of the opinion that, oh, I would never take another human life, oh, I could never kill anybody, then you're not only a coward, you're a villain. You are saying that signaling your own virtue is more important to you than defending what you love. That your own life and the lives of your wife and child do not matter. That you are not willing to kill threats to protect them. That is an evil point of view. If you are fully honest and fully understand what you're saying, that makes you a terrible person. Don't marry these people, and by God, stop voting for them. And again, intentionally or not, that's one of the reasons I think Krasinski did such a great job with this movie, is that it shows people acting in this way and being punished for it. It shows actions having consequences. So, yeah, Quiet Place 2 is a good movie. Go see it. And in the unlikely event I'm able to get this out today, happy Memorial Day.